Good day all, RobotnikHolmes here. It's been a hot minute since I made a video about Star Wars comics. This channel is primarily a Sonic comic one, but sometimes I like to branch out onto other subjects, all equally nerdy, I guess. I've been a fan of the movie since I was a young'un, so let's talk about Star Wars comics. The 2015 Star Wars comics, published under Marvel, went from 2015 to 2019. It had a pretty good run, and certainly embodies the essence of the original trilogy. Set chronologically after Episode 1, A New Hope, and leading into The Empire Strikes Back, this comic has our crazy band of rebels go on all sorts of adventures in the galaxy, from meeting a hive mind queen and fighting zombies, infiltrating a planet by means of theatre disguises, to commandeering an entire Empire vessel, all of which is better than I make it sound, I assure you. It's not all great, however. Some of the plots can sometimes go on longer than necessary, and the art direction can sometimes be flat as heck. I think they were told to make it as close to the aesthetic of the 90s films as possible, and that at times can work against the comic. One dude's art was primarily just traced over actual still images of the movies. Is that allowed? But for all the drab parts of this comic, there are some stories that really exceeded expectations, and that leads me to the main subject. The story I want to personally look at is the comic's second official arc, Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon. It's here where our main boy, Luke Skywalker, really has his fighting skills put to the test, and at the same time, Han Solo and Princess Leia find themselves in quite a predicament. Alright, I should probably elaborate on some of the things that lead up to this arc. Spoilers for issue 6. Ring the alarm bells and everything. Luke found himself in an early confrontation with Boba Fett, who was out to find his surname and convey it to Darth Vader. The scene of Vader finding out that he has a son is probably one of the best and most dramatic moments in the entire comic. Anyway, Han Solo and Leia go out to a far-off planet to escape TIE fighters and, hang out, I guess. And then they are interrupted by the arrival of a rival smuggler, recurring comic character Sana, who states right up front that she and Solo are married? I want to see those wedding photos. Chewie would be the one eating all the cake. And meanwhile, Luke sets off for the titular Smuggler's Moon to find answers about the Jedi and how to properly fight, because he had a run-in with Vader earlier in the first bunch of issues, and while we got one of the funniest exchanges in all of Star Wars, Luke got his arse handed to him, and now he's out to learn how to not lose a battle. And that's where the Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon arc starts. Like I said, they are not all grand, and I might not bring up the mainline Star Wars comics that much, but in this case, I think this is a good place to start. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. In this video, I'm looking at the Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon arc of Marvel's Star Wars comics. You know, the more I look at this cover, as brilliantly drawn as it is, the more I feel it's just a futuristic version of that funny green screen effect. You know, the one that's just like... And again, like with my last Star Wars video, I love how the synopsis and credits are arranged like the opening title crawl of the movies. It's so befitting. Though, funny that instead of arcs, the official term to separate these different stories are books. First time I've seen that, but maybe it's common practice? Issue number 8 starts off with this detailed panel of a Star Destroyer overlooking Han Solo's smuggling hole, for a lack of a better word. Despite all the electrical storms surrounding the planet, the Empire is adamant in reaching its surface and bomb the thing to smithereens to kill our heroes. Well, it looks like someone's having a good time. On its surface, Han and Leia are still confronted by Sana, who really does not like seeing her man having wine with another woman. As much as Han denies it, Leia is pretty annoyed at the prospect of his bounty hunter wife taking them both in, especially when Sana destroys the ship they used to get here. But since the TIE bombers are arriving, there may have to be some uneasy alliances. Meanwhile, Luke and R2-D2 are cruising around space after reading Obi-Wan's old books. Don't worry, I'll get to those someday soon. And with his angsty reason for leaving behind the rebels explained to us, he zooms towards Nar Shaddaa, which is a bit like Coruscant, except it's a total scumhole. I love the detail of the clouds obscuring most of the city. Luke just wants to recklessly go down to the rowdiest pub on the planet, pick a fight with someone and come out a better fighter, I guess. But the future has other plans for our blonde boy. He does get into a fight and he does use his lightsaber, but the dude's weapon gets stolen, and everyone goes out on a wild goose chase to take it for themselves. Cue the Benny Hill music. But not really, I'm on a tight schedule. Though he does learn about Coruscant and the location of the Jedi Temple, which might be important later. Back on the other planet, Sana tries to contact the Star Destroyer, and the heroes don't want the Empire to capture them, so Leia takes control of the situation. That's pretty badass, not gonna lie. Leia ain't trusting any of these guys, and it seems like she and Sana are going to have a point-blank shootout. But then the TIE bombers arrive and make things more difficult, and that's where the first issue ends. They're going so fast. Slow down! You're gonna crash! Part 2. Luke is doing some hardcore parkour to chase after the lightsaber thief, and this goes on for quite a while, but we do see lots of really cool art. Even when the guy latches onto a ship with his magnetic glove to get away, our hero leaps right over the rooftops to catch up to him. After a nasty fall, they thankfully land on some really soft market stalls, and Luke retrieves his weapon. R2-D2 is also here, and you know who is also here? Yeah, this dude. Meet Gracchus the Hutt, whose likeness to Jabba is just as strong as his love for collecting old tech, be it old lightsabers or even clone-era droids. I'm surprised to see these guys again. Luke also gets knocked out when Gracchus goes all "welcome to the family, son," and decks him with a powerful fist. Luke soon wakes up before Mr. Ugly here to see him brandishing an old Jedi holocron. And that's not the only thing he's collected. He's stored all sorts of props from the prequel trilogy, even an old Jedi starfighter. So Gracchus wants Luke to activate the holocron with his Jedi powers, I guess to prove that he's a Jedi, even though the latter is clearly not yet good with the Force, but being threatened and reflecting on his memories of Obi-Wan seem to help. Whoosh! All of the holocrons in the room start lighting up and activating, and all of the old Jedi's video recordings go off at once, including one by Shaq T from Clone Wars. Her serious speech is so profound that Gracchus calls Luke the last Jedi, and I see what you did there. And so, Luke is carted off to an arena where a game master will teach him how to fight before an audience, all while R2 continues to roll around the city streets. Meanwhile, those Imperials are trying to kill our heroes, and Han reveals to Sana that since their last meeting, he has since joined the rebel cause, while Leia continues to pack heat and shoot bad guys like it's going out of style. It seems that she's in a bit of a huff with Han after all that. The three are thankfully able to work together despite their grievances, and they head back into Sana's ship to escape from backup. This issue ends following Han, Leia and Sana avoiding enemy fire, and the dude is chewed out for repeatedly asking to drive. Rebel base, meanwhile, receives a distress call from R2 about Luke's capture, and while the leader, Mon Mothma, is reluctant to send anyone to save him from that scumhole, two volunteers in the form of Chewbacca and a reluctant C-3PO proudly state that they'll go there to save him. Looks like it's going to be quite a rescue mission. Space battle ahoy! The heroes evade fire from the Star Destroyer and TIE fighters and just a lot of Empire ships. They have a lot of funny banter too, which I certainly appreciate in the middle of this battle. The heroes are able to go at warp speed and noom right the heck out of there. The party of smugglers and a princess catch word of Luke's location and also set a course for Nar Shaddaa. Sana's repeatedly stated that she's Han Solo's wife, but now it's more called into question. I know that look, that definitely means that she's up to something. Leia and her bet Solo for payment if she can help them get Luke out of the pickle he's in. Against his will, I might add. At the same time, Chewie and 3PO are hovering over Nar Shaddaa and planning a course of action, and having 3PO stay behind while Chewie goes down to the danger zone. Or rather, the other way around. Womp womp. It would seem that scumminess doesn't just extend to the organic races on the Smuggler's moon, as 3PO learns the hard way when he encounters fellow droids down there, only for them to lead him to an alley and hold him at buzzsaw point. Isn't that the same droid that was in the first movie, but now he's got a buzzsaw? I guess he turns to a life of crime. Good thing Chewie is here to save his bacon, and the Wookiee proceeds to do his thing and rip their arms off. 3PO just talks nonchalantly while this all goes down. It's almost creepy, and that's before we meet his creepy counterpart later on. Chewie and 3PO are at the bar that Luke was at earlier, asking questions of their friends' whereabouts. But as expected in a bad guy bar, some of these guys don't quite like that, which presumably leads to a big bar brawl. Elsewhere, Luke meets the Game Master, this enigmatic dude who apparently bought a cloak and decided to only use its hood. He explains that the Jedi Temple on Coruscant is no more, as is the religion itself. But somehow, the Game Master is able to competently wield a lightsaber, which really begs some questions, but we don't get any answers on that. Shortly after, the Game Master and Gushes are plotting together, figuring out what to use this rookie Jedi for, other than to draw in audience members. They also pick the beast that's going to be sicked on the kid in the arena, and it's all shrouded in darkness. But we can tell it's going to be this beastie, judging by the cover anyway. Funny, it's a little misleading. Luke doesn't fight this until the next issue. Meanwhile, Chewbacca's threatening the bartender and hanging him over the edge of a fricking building. We don't see him dropping the dude, presumably because they don't want us to see the good guys do any bad guy things, but the bartender is revealed to be okay. He just landed on a rubbish ship. This issue ends with one of the aforementioned bar fight bad guys tattling on Chewie, and we see a mysterious bounty hunter listening intently. He seems dead set on taking out this famous Wookiee. Also, you might be like me and think that this is the Game Master, as I did when reading this, because look at these two. So everyone's off to the races, as the arena is prepared for the big fight, with R2 joining the crowds. I guess it's not unnatural for astrodroids to join public events. Gushes, meanwhile, is certainly giddy about having a Jedi in the ring to fill so many seats, and Luke's being prepared to go out and fight the beastie. Spoilers for the previous issue's cover. What? The foul slug dude also has Obi-Wan's journals, which he swiped from Luke's ship, and now Luke is dead set on getting them back any way he can. Before the blonde boy is thrust into the arena, the Game Master looking dude is out finding his bounty, and he takes out both Chewie and 3PO with a stun gun, the latter being an accident. But that is enough to free Chewie from being paralysed, and he and the bounty hunter get into a big fight. The hunter unfortunately comes out as the victor, using his gadgets to outbeat the Wookiee's strength. It's actually a pretty gruesome battle. You really feel for Chewie. Round about the same time that fight is going on, Luke has his own problems, as he is now placed within the ring, and, oh god, out comes this giant Congo the Disembowler thing. Or as the wiki calls it, a rogwart. Damn these Star Wars names. Listen to a rogwart's roar? Oh. Well, thanks, wiki. It is here where Luke's fighting skills and use of the Force are really put to the test. While watching the fight, we get some dialogue from Gushes and the lightsaber-wielding Game Master, and it seems the latter wishes for Luke to survive this dangerous ordeal. But it's not out of the goodness of his heart or anything like that. No, he's actually an undercover agent working hard to get Luke handed over to someone else. And who's that someone? The Empire, of course. Luke's got more than a giant rogwart beast to worry about this time around. This issue comes to an end following the bounty hunter's brutal beatdown of Chewbacca. He demands to know the location of Han Solo because he's out for his bounty, I suppose. But thankfully for the furry dude, the man in question is here to save the day. Ah, how nice of him. He, Leia and Sana had arrived here not too long ago. I left out the bits where Leia went and gave Han the cold shoulder so as to spare you guys the drama, but I will say that it's here where Han explains to her, and by extension the reader, how he met Sana and how he put together their fake wedding to get back at this crime lord. It's a pretty intimate moment for the dude, but we'll have to wait and see where this goes. On to the last issue. Okay, a quick detour, but I love how one of the variant covers is just the main cover, but we get to see all the intricate penciling that goes into making this lovingly detailed artwork. It's super neat. Same for the fourth cover. The third variant cover isn't as good, but it's interesting how the comic goes one step further from being the tie-in comic, with it making one of the covers look like the packaging for an action figure. I don't quite remember when Greedo wore a form-fitting green suit though. Looks like he's made out of donuts. The fifth and final part has the evil bounty hunter dude, who we now know is called Dengar, threaten our heroes with a live thermal detonator. But Chewie does Solo a solid and toss him off the edge with his live bomb, and that ends up just as climactic as it sounds. Yeah, he explodes. The two squads team up, and they all head towards the arena where Luke is, but it looks like things are going tits up. Luke, understandably, is unable to deal with the beastie, but its shock collar gets activated, neutralizing the beast. The Game Master reveals his true colours as a undercover stormtrooper, and he goes and arrests big old Gushes, all while Empire dudes in black start pouring in and cause more of a commotion. While black stormtroopers fight off old droid's tech, one such droid sneaks right past them and enters the Jedi collection room. R2-D2 uses the battle as cover and discovers a bunch of lightsabers lying around. No, he's not gonna do that. Meanwhile, Gushes activates the arena's electrical defences, shorting out all of their blasters and whatnot, and proceeds to beat the crap out of the stormtroopers single-handedly. He's really a force to be reckoned with. The audience must be really loving this, especially with the beastie now running amok, considering its shock collar also got deactivated. Gushes yanks the Game Master from battle and says one of the most chilling villain lines I've ever heard, but he ends up on the floor once the dude slices some of his robot legs off. Apparently he's very top heavy. Meanwhile, R2-D2 comes in like he's a fricking saint sent from heaven, launching out lightsabers like it's frigging Christmas. Luke gets one to deal with the bucket heads, and Chewie, Han and Leia get some to defend themselves. Hell, Chewie gets two! The heroes are able to get out of there safely, and in a private moment, Sana finally admits that she's not actually Solo's wife, and that her surname is Staros, after Leia chooses to free her instead of off her in cold blood. I suppose she's just so amazed at the good guy's compassion that she felt she'd rather come clean. All's well and ends well. The issue ends with the heroes making it out in both of their ships, leaving Nar Shaddaa to handle their Rogwart problem. Gushes is left in Empire custody, and the Game Master is revealed to be a one Sergeant Creel, a high-ranking soldier who reports directly to Darth Vader. Oh yeah, Darth Vader cliffhanger. He destroys a Jedi holocron and demands to know more about this dumb farmer boy who can't even use his lightsaber. And that's where the Showdown on Smuggler's Moon arc ends. As the comic's first proper arc, the Smuggler's Moon is actually really engaging. It's a better introduction to the characters and their developments, more so than the actual first issue of this comic, if just a little bit. The pacing on the middle bunch of issues, particularly those where Luke is assigned to fight in the arena, did feel a bit sluggish narrative-wise. They promise, in issue number 9, that he'll be pitted against other fights and potentially dangerous beasts. And then issue 10 has the cover and one of the pages show off the Rogwart that he's gonna eventually fight. But none of that happens until the penultimate issue. I suppose they were trying to build it up as this big climactic battle where Luke goes up against something and ultimately wins, but remember, this Luke is post A New Hope, so he isn't quite as prepared this time around, and the Rogwart is just left behind to run amok instead. That was underwhelming. Possibly it's meant to be a parallel to future Luke and his run-in with the Rancor in Return of the Jedi, where he actually does end up defeating the big beastie one way or another. But either way, the reference to future events came at a detriment to the pacing. The other character arcs were alright. It's always nice to see the no-nonsense fighter Chewbacca and the coward 3CPO together, especially when the latter has to do all the talking. The side plot regarding Han Solo, Princess Leia and Sana Staros was probably my least favourite part of the whole arc. Sana is a really cool character, and I'm glad she becomes a comic regular after this, but the dialogue and characterization during these moments made the pacing come to a complete stop, even during the space battles. Maybe it was the forced drama that plagued parts of their interactions, but yeah, it didn't appeal to me that much. Except when they both donked on Solo. I appreciated that little nugget of humour. The initial identity of Sana as Han Solo's wife surely made me raise an eyebrow, especially considering that he and Leia were starting to be more of a thing at this point. But it did feel a little underwhelming when it was revealed that she was lying the whole time. I don't know, I guess there could have been more potential in one of Solo's old lovers coming back into his life. Perhaps it would have helped us delve more into the smuggler's mysterious backstory. Unlike some other fans, I don't find that reveal a cop-out, mainly because I enjoy her later appearances more. It's really good that we have a bisexual person of colour in Star Wars comics. And honestly, I'm glad her personality isn't entirely stuck as being the wife of a shifty rogue. This one... I'll get to Afra someday, alright? Okay, that was mostly stuff that irked me, but everything else in these issues was definitely enjoyable, even to the most casual fan. I liked most of 3PO's dialogue, translating for Chewie's talk about people potentially being physically inconvenienced. The inclusion of characters like Robo-Leg Jabba Gracchus and this mysterious lightsaber wielder who works for the Empire, both of whom become recurring characters in this comic series. Marvel writer Jason Aaron does a pretty bang-up job in the character department, writing new threats for our heroes to face while giving said heroes really fun things to say and joke about. Everyone acts as close to their movie selves as well as they are drawn to look like them, and on that note, the artists did a bang-up job too. Imonen's penciling of panels, especially the establishing shots, were simply superb. It really makes this comic feel just as grand and visually appealing as the movies. The action is intense and nicely drawn, and the use of shadows is also super neat. The page of Gracchus showing Luke his collection room that brightens up as the panels go on is really effective. And the way the holocrons later add blue to the whole thing, with the old recordings of Jedis and teachers talking at once, and the hues of blue added in the background, it really complements the mysticism of the now nearly extinct Jedi in this time frame. That, or maybe I just like seeing prequel trilogy content referenced during the events of the original trilogy, but who knows really. I also like Sana's ship, the Vault Cobra. Its name is just as silly as any other name in the Star Wars dictionary, but it's awesome that it looks and acts like the Millennium Falcon, but better and less apparently trashy looking. I always wondered in the movies why everyone keeps calling the Millennium Falcon like a bunch of garbage, but then I look at the Solo prequel and I'm like, oh yeah, it used to be so shiny. Back on track, I think the most unexpected and surprisingly enjoyable parts were where the main heroes all got to wield lightsabers in the end. Apparently, Han Solo looks pretty cool with a green one, even if he doesn't use it that much. You can say that for all of the heroes actually. Leia uses it for a more practical use later on, and while this probably would be considered more missed potential, I like that they only really use it for self-defense during the whole arena chaos. They are not lightsaber duelists like Sergeant Creel after all. But yeah, visuals were an A+ for this arc. If you're super interested in where the story of A New Hope goes, and don't mind the change of media from film to comic book, I highly suggest picking this up. The book of the Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon was a dang good hook for new readers. Alright, time to do what I did last time and review these things in bulk. Issue 8 makes for a great setup and introduction to the setting of the arc, so it gets a 7 out of 10. Good story and action all around. Issue 9 is more of the same, but with more character introductions. Good ones! It shall also get a 7 out of 10. Issue 10 is where it starts to lose pace a little bit, but the space battles and Chewie and 3PO moments certainly saved it, so 6 out of 10 for that one. Issue 11 was the one where everyone finds their way to the Smuggler's planet, and Luke takes on the Beastie, probably my least favourite of the bunch, so it gets an average 5 out of 10. Lastly, issue 12 proved itself to be a very exciting climax for the Smuggler's Moon arc, so it rightfully gets a 7 out of 10. It's just that good. And that's it for that Star Wars book. Again, I'm not going much into the 2015 run, as rad as some of the stories are, so instead I'll just say, read it for yourself. You may not be disappointed. What's next on the agenda? Well, there's this big Vader Down special. I remember that being a big thing, and it's the next story chronologically. It even advertises it here. But before we go there, there's a certain band of characters I'd like everyone to see first. They're the most recognisable faces in Vader Down, so yeah, I'm changing the tracks once again and looking at the first 5 issues of the 2015 Darth Vader comics. Not to be confused with the 2017 ones that I looked at in the previous video. These ones take place after A New Hope too, and if you haven't noticed, it has them in it. Thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are, and I'll see you in the next video.